Hello, cooking enthusiasts. Today's video is about pizza, and I kind of feel bad because I didn't really do anything new in terms of a recipe or a technique. So this video is kind of just for bragging rights. I feel like in the world of food nerds, sort of perfecting your version of a home pizza is a real rite of passage. I was also in a Skype video call directing the pizza making, so I screen recorded that video, and I thought it would be fun to share some of this footage. So now I do want to get into specifically what I was going for and basically why I'm so pleased with myself. Because obviously there's a huge spectrum of pizzas, some of which are easier or more difficult to do with a regular oven. What I was going for, and what I think is generally the more difficult area to work in, is going for a thin crust pizza that is sort of in between New York and Neapolitan. So I would say the New York influence is the fact that it is actually crispy and can support its own weight, whereas the Neapolitan influence is more in the hydration and fermentation of the dough. So as you are chewing it, it becomes quite soft and pleasant, and generally the crust is pretty open and airy. If anybody watched the Bon Appetit series on making the perfect pizza, I would say I am also generally in this hybrid category that they were working with. For lack of a better term, I'm going to call it contemporary thin crust. I do want to get into the dough, but first, let's talk about the baking setup because this is one area where I do things very slightly differently than what I have seen. I feel like the gold standard for baking pizza in a domestic oven is the pizza steel, maybe followed by the pizza stone, but I feel like those have sort of fallen out of favor. Another popular technique is building the pizza in a preheated cast iron pan and then putting it into the oven. So I decided to basically split the difference. I probably will invest in a steel at some point, but I thought I should choose something that had more than one use. So, for about as much money as I could have spent on a mid-range pizza steel, I got a really big 16-inch cast iron frying pan. And we weren't building the pizza in the pan like I see with a lot of cast iron pizza, but we were just using it as a pizza steel. I think in terms of getting the bottom crispy, the cast iron did really well. We were making relatively small 12-inch-ish pizzas in the 16-inch cast iron. I actually prefer this because I would rather do a bunch of small pizzas so you can try different toppings. I would say the only major drawback is the recovery time because the later pizzas were definitely taking a little bit longer, even if we took sometimes 20-minute breaks between pizzas. Now, quickly going back in time to the pizza dough, I kept things super simple for this first attempt. Flour, water, salt, and yeast. I went with around 65 to 67% hydration. Again, not a crazy wet dough, but I would say respectable. And my dad did actually buy Italian 00 flour. I would say if you are new to making pizza, you should potentially splurge on getting the Italian flour. It's very finely milled, so I think it hydrates a little bit better. So I think it lets you handle a dough that would normally be a little too sticky with just regular flour. I made roughly 720 grams of total pizza dough, a good 6 to 8 hours at room temperature for bulk fermentation, followed by shaping into 4 portions of 180 grams, and then secondary fermentation for about 20 hours in the fridge and probably a last few hours at room temperature before baking. A lot of the success of this is due to my dad's previous experience in shaping pizza dough, but I'm also really happy with the dough I made and the baking setup because of the previously mentioned thermal bounce back. The first pizza may have been the best, double tomato, so a little bit of pre-made sauce on the bottom, followed by sliced ripe in-season tomatoes, and a little bit of my grandmother's dry oregano on top. The first pizza baked off in just under 4 minutes, which again I think is very respectable since I think the gold standard for domestic ovens is about 3 minutes. The second pizza was also fantastic, just garlic and olive oil paste before baking, and then after baking, my grandmother's prosciutto and some parmesan. Next was the margarita. That one was actually a little disappointing because I think the mozzarella quality was just okay. And we also did a weird wild card spicy pizza, which was good, but a little too hot for me. But overall, I would say we got like 90% to perfect in terms of what can be accomplished in a domestic kitchen. I'm really excited to experiment more in the future. Going to try different formulations for the dough, different toppings, etc. I think my next major step is going to be doing pretty much the same process, except maybe working with regular bread flour and increasing the hydration a little bit. If you have any questions about my pizza making technique, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, thank you for watching.